Mass movements combine features of both crowd and public. They are sustained over time, mobilizing large numbers of people around a cause, an ideology, or a leader. Religious crusades, political revolutions, nationalist uprisings, all are examples. In such movements, individuals surrender their individuality to the collective purpose, finding in it a sense of meaning and belonging. The passion and sacrifice evoked by mass movements can transform societies, overthrowing old orders and creating new institutions. But they can also unleash destructive forces, sweeping away restraints and plunging communities into chaos. Collective behavior is thus both a source of renewal and a danger to stability. The conditions under which collective behavior arises are significant. It tends to occur in times of crisis, when established norms are weakened, when authority is questioned, when uncertainty prevails. Economic depression, political turmoil, or cultural dislocation provide fertile soil for crowds, publics, and movements. In such conditions, individuals seek guidance, solidarity, and relief from anxiety, and they are receptive to suggestion and leadership. The study of collective behavior is therefore essential to understanding periods of social upheaval and transformation. It must be emphasized that collective behavior is not wholly irrational or pathological. While it often involves heightened emotion and diminished critical reflection, it also expresses genuine needs and aspirations. The grievances voiced in collective movements are real. The ideals pursued are often noble. The solidarities formed are enduring. Collective behavior is not an aberration, but an integral part of social life, a means by which society responds to crises and adjusts to change. The task of sociology is not to condemn it but to analyze it, to understand the forces that give rise to it, and to discern the conditions under which it becomes creative or destructive. Leaders play a crucial role in shaping collective behavior. In the crowd, the leader gives direction to the vague impulses of the mass, articulating sentiments and channeling energies. In the public, leaders frame issues, interpret events, and guide discussion. In mass movements, leaders embody the ideals of the group, symbolizing its aspirations and focusing its loyalties. The relation between leader and followers is reciprocal. Leaders derive their power from the support of the group, and the group derives its coherence from the leadership provided. The quality of leadership is therefore decisive in determining whether collective behavior results in constructive change or destructive disorder. From the standpoint of social control, collective behavior presents both a challenge and an opportunity. It can undermine established order by bypassing institutions, ignoring laws, and defying authority. But it can also renew society by bringing to light neglected issues, mobilizing energies for reform, and creating new forms of solidarity. The wise society seeks not merely to repress collective behavior, but to channel it, to integrate its energies into constructive channels. Education, open discussion, and responsive institutions are means by which the raw power of collective behavior can be transformed into orderly progress. Thus, conflict, consensus, and collective behavior are inseparable aspects of social life. Conflict disrupts and challenges. Consensus integrates and stabilizes. Collective behavior expresses the tensions and aspirations that arise from their interplay. To understand society is to understand how these processes interact, how conflict leads to new consensus, how consensus provides the framework for conflict, and how collective behavior mediates between the two in times of crisis. It is in this ceaseless rhythm of disruption and integration that the life of society unfolds, ever-changing yet continuous, ever-threatened yet enduring. The family is the most fundamental of all social institutions, for it is in the family that the individual first enters into association with others, learns the habits of cooperation, and acquires the values of his group. The family is the nursery of human nature, the place where the child is nurtured not only in body but in mind and spirit. It is within the circle of family life that the basic impulses of hunger, sex, and fear are first regulated and transformed into social conduct. The dependence of the infant upon the care of its parents prolongs the period of immaturity and makes possible the extended learning upon which culture rests. The family is therefore not merely a biological arrangement for the reproduction of the species, but a social institution for the training of persons. It is through the family that human nature becomes humanized. The forms of family life vary widely among peoples and across time. The patriarchal family, in which authority is vested in the father, has given way in many societies to the conjugal family, in which the relation between husband and wife assumes greater importance. In some cultures, the extended family, embracing several generations and collateral relatives, predominates. In others, the nuclear family, consisting of parents and children alone, is the prevailing type. These variations reflect economic conditions, religious traditions, and historical developments. Yet through all changes, certain functions of the family remain constant: the regulation of sexual relations, the care and socialization of children, and the provision of affection and solidarity among its members. The family is also the primary agency of social control. It is in the family that the child first learns obedience, cooperation, and respect for authority. Parents, by precept and example, transmit the customs of the group. They reward conformity and punish deviation. They instill in the child the language, manners, and beliefs that he will carry into later life. In this way, the family reproduces society in miniature and perpetuates its culture. The traditions of the past are handed down, not in books or laws alone, but in the daily intercourse of family life. The child grows into the habits of his people, not by conscious instruction alone, but by the constant influence of those to whom he is attached by affection and dependence. At the same time, the family is a source of individuality. Within its shelter, the child develops a sense of self, learns to express emotions, and experiences the security that makes growth possible. The intimacy of family relations provides the warmth of sympathy and the discipline of authority. From the interplay of love and restraint arises the balance of character. The family thus mediates between the biological nature of the child and the cultural demands of society, forming the bridge by which the individual becomes a social person. The stability of the family has always been threatened by forces both internal and external. Economic pressures, social mobility, and the liberation of women have altered its structure. Industrialization has weakened the economic functions of the family by removing production from the household to the factory. Urbanization has diminished the authority of kinship ties by increasing anonymity and mobility. Yet the family persists, adapting itself to new conditions, redefining its functions, and continuing to serve as the basic unit of social organization. The resilience of the family demonstrates its fundamental necessity to social life. Beyond the family lie other social institutions, larger and more complex, yet performing analogous functions for the wider community. Religion is one of these. Religion embodies the collective sentiments of the group, expresses its highest values, and sanctions its norms. Through ritual and belief, religion binds individuals to one another and to the community. It interprets the meaning of life, consoles in misfortune, and justifies the social order. In primitive societies, religion pervades all aspects of life, prescribing conduct in every sphere. In modern societies, though separated from other institutions, it still exerts profound influence by shaping moral standards and sustaining the sense of community. The economy is another fundamental institution. Economic organization arises from the necessity of securing food, clothing, and shelter. In the simplest societies, this is accomplished by direct cooperation within the family or clan. In more complex societies, it requires the division of labor, exchange, and markets. The economy regulates the production and distribution of goods, determines the occupations of individuals, and influences the stratification of classes. It is not a mere mechanism of supply and demand, but a structure of institutions, including property, money, and contracts, which rest upon social consensus and are enforced by social control. The economic order is at once the foundation of material life and a major determinant of social relations. Government is the institution that organizes power and maintains order. Wherever men live together, disputes arise and authority must be exercised. Government embodies the authority of the group, defines rights and obligations, and enforces compliance. It may take the form of monarchy, aristocracy, democracy, or other arrangements, but in all cases it represents the organized force of the community. Government not only restrains disorder, but also coordinates activities, directs collective efforts, and provides for common welfare. It symbolizes the sovereignty of the group and secures the conditions under which other institutions operate. Education is the institution by which culture is transmitted more deliberately and systematically than through the family alone. In primitive societies, education takes place informally through imitation and participation. In advanced societies, it becomes formalized in schools, curricula, and pedagogy. Education prepares the young for adult roles, imparts knowledge and skills, and inculcates values. It serves both to conserve tradition and to promote innovation. By expanding horizons and cultivating critical thought, education becomes a means of social mobility and progress. It links the generations and integrates individuals into the cultural life of their people. The institution of law, though often associated with government, deserves special mention. Law is the codification of rules of conduct that have been found necessary for the maintenance of order. It crystallizes customs, embodies moral sentiments, and establishes procedures for adjudicating disputes. Law provides predictability and stability, reducing the uncertainty of social relations. It functions both as a conservative force, preserving established arrangements, and as an instrument of change, adapting to new conditions and incorporating new rights. The respect for law is one of the foundations of civilization, for without it cooperation would be precarious and society insecure. These institutions, family, religion, economy, government, education, and law, constitute the framework of society. They are not isolated, but interdependent. The family prepares the child for participation in the larger institutions. Religion reinforces the moral order on which law depends. The economy supports education and government. Government in turn protects property and regulates the economy. The health of society depends upon the harmonious functioning of these institutions. When one is weakened, the balance of the whole is disturbed and adjustments are required. Institutions arise not by deliberate design alone, but by the slow accumulation of practices that prove effective. They embody the experience of the past and the wisdom of generations. They are more enduring than individuals, for they outlast the lives of those who create and maintain them. Yet institutions are not immutable. They change as conditions change, sometimes gradually, sometimes through revolution. Each institution is in continuous adaptation, preserving its essential function while modifying its form. This flexibility is the secret of their persistence. The study of institutions is central to sociology because it is through them that society maintains continuity and order. They provide the stable patterns within which individual life unfolds. They regulate conduct, transmit culture, and integrate individuals into the collective whole. At the same time, they are the arenas in which conflicts are played out and changes initiated. Institutions are both the products of social processes and the agencies that shape them. To understand institutions is to understand the structure of society itself. The individual, though born into a network of institutions, is not wholly their passive product. He participates in them, interprets their rules, and sometimes resists their constraints. Institutions, though powerful, depend upon the cooperation and loyalty of individuals. When that loyalty weakens, institutions crumble. The vitality of institutions rests upon the consent and conviction of those who live under them. This is why symbols, rituals, and beliefs are so essential. They invest institutions with authority and legitimacy, making obedience seem natural and resistance costly. The strength of an institution is measured not only by its coercive power, but by the extent to which it commands voluntary adherence. In the final analysis, social institutions are the great mechanisms of association, the forms through which human energies are organized for common ends. They discipline impulses, channel behavior, and create the conditions for cultural achievement. They limit freedom, but also make freedom possible. For without the order they impose, life would be chaotic and insecure. They preserve the heritage of the past while opening avenues for the future. They are the scaffolding of civilization, the enduring structures within which the drama of human life is enacted. Social organization is the arrangement of individuals and groups into a system of relationships through which their activities are coordinated and their interests reconciled. It is the form taken by the association of men in enduring structures of cooperation. While social institutions represent the crystallized traditions and practices that persist across generations, social organization refers to the living process by which these institutions operate and by which individuals are fitted into a whole greater than themselves. It is the order that emerges when human behavior is patterned, roles are defined, and authority is exercised. Without organization, society would be no more than a mass of uncoordinated individuals. But through organization it becomes a body, each part fulfilling a function in relation to the others. Organization is found wherever men pursue common ends. The family is organized around the tasks of reproduction and nurture, the church around the cultivation of belief and ritual, the state around the maintenance of order and defense. Each organization has a structure, a set of roles and statuses by which its members are differentiated and their relations regulated. These structures are not arbitrary, but arise from the needs of the group and the capacities of individuals. Leadership is necessary to guide collective action. Authority is necessary to secure obedience. Division of labor is necessary to accomplish complex tasks. The forms these take may differ from society to society, but the functions they serve are universal. The essence of organization lies in the coordination of activities. Individuals, acting alone, are limited by their powers and by the contingencies of circumstance. Acting together under an organized system, they can achieve results far beyond the reach of isolated effort. The construction of cities, the conduct of wars, the accumulation of knowledge, all depend upon organization. It multiplies human power by directing it, combining it, and sustaining it over time. The division of labor, whereby different individuals specialize in different tasks, is the great principle of organization. It increases efficiency, fosters skill, and necessitates cooperation. But division of labor also creates dependence, for each person becomes reliant on the work of others. Organization thus binds individuals into a network of mutual obligations, at once empowering and constraining them. Authority is the principle by which organization secures unity. Authority is the recognized right to command and the corresponding duty to obey. It is not mere force but legitimate power, accepted by those subject to it. Authority provides direction, resolves disputes, and maintains discipline. It rests upon tradition, upon the sanctity of established roles, upon the prestige of leaders, or upon the rationality of legal rules. Whatever its source, authority is indispensable to organization, for without it cooperation would collapse into conflict. At the same time, authority must be balanced by consent, for no organization can endure if its members withdraw their loyalty. The interplay of authority and consent is the dynamic of organized life. Organization is not static but evolutionary. It grows, differentiates, and adapts to new conditions. Primitive societies exhibit simple organization with little division of labor and authority based largely on kinship and custom. As societies grow more complex, their organizations become more elaborate, with specialized institutions, codified rules, and formal hierarchies. Bureaucracy emerges as the rational form of organization, with clearly defined offices, impersonal rules, and merit-based advancement. Bureaucracy increases efficiency and predictability, but it also risks rigidity and impersonality. The evolution of organization reflects the tension between flexibility and stability, between innovation and routine. Social organization is not confined to formal structures, but includes informal relations as well. Within every group there are personal ties, friendships, and networks of influence that shape behavior as effectively as official rules. Informal organization provides flexibility, adaptability, and human warmth. It supplements the formal structure, sometimes reinforcing it, sometimes undermining it. The real life of an organization often lies as much in these informal relations as in its formal arrangements. The sociologist must attend to both if he is to understand the functioning of the group. Organization is also the arena of conflict. Different interests contend for influence, different groups struggle for dominance. Yet conflict within organization is not merely disruptive, it is a means of adjustment. Through conflict, issues are clarified, policies are tested, and accommodations are reached. Organization provides channels for conflict, institutionalizing it in forms that preserve the unity of the group while permitting expression of dissent. Political parties, trade unions, and legislatures are examples of such channels. By regulating conflict, organization makes it constructive rather than destructive. Social disorganization is the breakdown of these coordinating mechanisms, the failure of organization to reconcile interests, direct conduct, and maintain unity. Disorganization appears when norms are weakened, authority is discredited, and institutions lose their hold upon men. It is seen in crime, vice, and corruption, in the growth of delinquency among youth, in the spread of anomie and alienation. Disorganization is not merely disorder in the physical sense, but the disintegration of the moral order, the loss of consensus, and the weakening of bonds that hold men together. The causes of disorganization are many. Rapid social change disrupts customs and traditions, leaving individuals without guidance. Migration uproots people from familiar environments and places them in strange settings where old norms no longer apply. Economic upheavals produce insecurity, competition intensifies, and cooperation falters. War and revolution destroy institutions and authority, leaving chaos in their wake. In all these cases, the balance of organization is upset, and disorganization results. It is a condition of uncertainty, in which individuals are left without stable roles, without recognized leaders, and without a sense of belonging. Disorganization is often most evident in the city. The city, by its very nature, breaks down traditional ties, multiplies contacts, and accelerates change. It brings together diverse peoples, each with their own customs, languages, and values. It offers anonymity, freedom from local restraints, and opportunities for new associations. These conditions foster mobility, innovation, and progress, but they also produce confusion, rootlessness, and deviance. The city is thus both a laboratory of organization and a breeding ground of disorganization. It exhibits the extremes of order and disorder, of integration and disintegration, in sharp relief. Yet disorganization is not simply decay, it is also a stage in development. The weakening of old norms makes possible the emergence of new ones. The collapse of traditional authority opens the way for new forms of leadership. Disorganization creates problems, but in solving them society advances. It is in times of disorganization that new institutions are born, new organizations established, new values crystallized. The history of society is thus a cycle of organization and disorganization, of order and disorder, of stability and change. Each disorganization prepares the way for a new organization. Each organization in time decays and gives way to new forms. The study of disorganization reveals the fragility of social order. It reminds us that organization is not automatic but must be maintained through constant effort. Consensus must be renewed, authority reinforced, institutions adapted. When these efforts fail, disorganization follows. But the resilience of society is great. Individuals seek order, crave stability, and will create new forms when old ones fail. Out of the very experience of disorganization comes the impulse to reorganize. Thus, disorganization is both a danger and an opportunity, both a symptom of decline and a condition of growth. From the standpoint of the individual, disorganization manifests itself as confusion, frustration, and insecurity. Roles are ambiguous, expectations uncertain, and loyalties divided. The individual feels lost, alienated, cut off from meaningful participation. This may lead to defiance, to retreat into vice, crime, or fanaticism. But it may also lead to creativity, to the search for new values, to the building of new communities. The experience of disorganization can be destructive, but it can also be liberating. It is a test of resilience, both for individuals and for societies. In considering organization and disorganization together, we see the rhythm of social life. Organization brings order, coordination, and progress. Disorganization brings breakdown, confusion, and change. Yet each contains the seeds of the other. Organization tends to become rigid, and rigidity invites disorganization. Disorganization loosens bonds, and loosened bonds invite reorganization. The two are not opposites in the sense of absolute antagonists, but phases in a continuous process. Society lives in the tension between them, never wholly organized, never wholly disorganized, but always moving from one to the other and back again. The sociologist must therefore study not only the structures of organization, but the processes of disorganization. He must see how order is created and how it decays, how authority is established and how it is undermined, how consensus is formed and how it dissolves. Only by grasping both can he understand the dynamics of society. For the science of sociology is not the study of static arrangements, but of living processes, of the ceaseless movement of human life between order and disorder, between unity and division, between organization and disorganization. Social control is the process by which the conduct of individuals is regulated and made consistent with the requirements of the group. It is the means through which order is maintained, cooperation secured, and common life rendered possible. Every society, from the simplest tribe to the most complex civilization, must exercise control over its members, for without control the impulses of individuals would clash in disorder and collective life would collapse. Social control may be external, operating through coercion, law, and punishment, or it may be internal, operating through conscience, habit, and loyalty. In both forms, it represents the influence of society upon the individual, shaping his behavior and directing it toward the fulfillment of social expectations. The earliest forms of control are exercised by custom. Custom embodies the accumulated wisdom of generations, prescribing what is to be done in familiar situations. The force of custom lies in its familiarity and in the sanctions of approval and disapproval that attend conformity or deviation. To act as others act, to conform to what is customary, brings acceptance and security. To depart from custom brings criticism, ridicule, or exclusion. In primitive societies, custom is almost absolute, governing every aspect of life from birth to death. Even in modern societies, where law and rational organization have advanced, custom retains a powerful hold, guiding conduct in countless ways that go unnoticed because they are so deeply ingrained. Religion is another great agency of control. By investing customs and moral rules with sacred significance, religion gives them authority beyond question. It appeals not merely to fear of punishment by men, but to fear of supernatural sanctions. Religious rituals and beliefs bind individuals to the group, reinforce loyalty, and provide motives for conformity stronger than those of personal advantage. Religion sacralizes the social order, making obedience to it a matter of ultimate meaning. Though the forms of religion vary, its function as an instrument of control is universal. Law represents a more formalized system of control. Law is explicit, codified, and enforced by the authority of the state. It defines rights and duties, prescribes penalties for violations, and provides procedures for adjudication. Law makes conduct predictable, reduces uncertainty, and provides redress for grievances. It is more flexible than custom, capable of deliberate change to meet new conditions. Yet law depends for its effectiveness upon the underlying consensus of the community. Without the support of public opinion, law becomes an empty form, unenforceable and disregarded. Thus, law is at once a product of social consensus and a means of maintaining it. Public opinion itself is one of the most subtle yet powerful forms of social control. Public opinion is the aggregate of judgments and sentiments expressed by members of a community on matters of common concern. It operates through praise and blame, through approval and ridicule, through the granting or withdrawal of esteem. The desire for recognition and the fear of exclusion make individuals acutely sensitive to public opinion. It governs behavior in countless situations where law is silent and custom vague. It is quick to form, flexible, and pervasive, touching every sphere of life. In democratic societies, public opinion is the supreme authority, guiding legislation, directing policy, and restraining leaders. Education also functions as an agency of control, though more indirectly. By inculcating knowledge, values, and discipline, education prepares individuals to conform to social expectations. It transmits the culture of the group, making the young familiar with its traditions and loyal to its ideals. Education also trains for participation, equipping individuals with the skills and attitudes necessary for cooperative life. The school is not only a place of learning, but a community in miniature, where rules are enforced, responsibilities assigned, and social habits cultivated. Through education, control is internalized, becoming part of character and conscience. The family, as already noted, is the primary source of control in early life. In the intimate relations of family life, the child learns obedience, restraint, and consideration for others. Parental authority, affection, and discipline lay the foundations of self-control. The family is thus the nursery not only of human nature, but of social control. The lessons learned in the home are carried into the wider society, providing the basis for conformity to larger institutions. Control is never absolute. It is limited by the diversity of interests, the multiplicity of associations, and the capacity of individuals for independent thought. In times of rapid change, traditional controls weaken, new ones are not yet established, and disorganization results. Control is therefore a process, not a fixed condition. It must be continually renewed, adapted, and reinforced. The effectiveness of control lies not in rigid coercion, but in the capacity to secure voluntary consent. The most successful control is that which operates through internalization, making the rules of society the rules of the self. Social change is the transformation of the structures, functions, and processes of society over time. It is as fundamental as social control, for society is never static. Change arises from invention, discovery, migration, conflict, and countless other forces. It appears in the modification of customs, the alteration of institutions, the reorganization of relationships. Sometimes change is gradual and imperceptible. Sometimes it is rapid and revolutionary. In either case, it is continuous, for society is always adapting to new conditions, adjusting to new problems, and creating new forms. the causes of change are manifold. Invention introduces new tools, techniques, and ideas that alter the conditions of life. The discovery of fire, the invention of the wheel, the printing press, the steam engine, electricity, and the computer all have transformed society profoundly. Each invention creates new possibilities, disrupts old arrangements, and requires new adaptations. Invention is the source of progress, but also the cause of disorganization, for it unsettles habits and compels reorganization. Migration is another cause of change. The movement of peoples brings new contacts, new ideas, new conflicts. Immigration introduces diversity into societies, enriching culture but also straining institutions. Urbanization, the migration from country to city, transforms economic and social life, breaking down traditional ties and creating new forms of association. Migration alters the distribution of population, shifts centers of power, and accelerates change. Conflict, too, is a source of change. The struggle between classes, races, nations, or parties disrupts established order and brings forth new accommodations. Conflict compels recognition of grievances, stimulates reform, and sometimes leads to revolution. War is the most dramatic form of conflict, destroying institutions and forcing radical reorganization. While destructive, conflict is also creative, for it clears the ground for new beginnings and crystallizes new values. Social change is also driven by diffusion, the spread of ideas and practices from one society to another. Contact between peoples results in borrowing, imitation, and adaptation. Religions, languages, technologies, and customs spread across boundaries, transforming societies far from their place of origin. Diffusion accelerates change by transmitting inventions and discoveries beyond their initial context. In the modern world, with rapid communication and transportation, diffusion has become a dominant force, making change global in scope. Change raises problems of control. The pace of change often outstrips the capacity of institutions to adapt. Old norms break down before new ones are established. Individuals are left without clear guidance, experiencing confusion and insecurity. This is the condition of disorganization, already described. The challenge of society is to adapt controls to new conditions, to create institutions that can manage change without collapsing under its pressure. Successful societies are those that can incorporate change into their organization, making innovation a normal process rather than a disruptive crisis. Social change is not uniform. Different parts of society change at different rates. Technology may advance rapidly while customs remain conservative. Institutions may resist change until compelled by necessity. This unevenness creates tension and conflict, for some groups press forward while others cling to tradition. The result is a complex pattern of continuity and transformation, stability and flux. The sociologist must analyze not only the causes of change, but the processes by which it is integrated into the social order. Change is also cumulative. Each innovation builds upon previous ones, creating momentum. The invention of writing made possible the accumulation of knowledge. The printing press multiplied its distribution. Modern communication now makes it instantaneous. The cumulative character of change gives it direction, though not necessarily toward any predetermined goal. Progress is not inevitable, but change is relentless. The task of society is to guide change, to control it, and to use it for human welfare. In the final analysis, social control and social change are inseparable. Control provides order and stability, change provides adaptation and growth. Control without change leads to stagnation, change without control leads to chaos. The life of society is a balance between the two, a dynamic equilibrium in which continuity is preserved while transformation occurs. To understand this balance is the central problem of sociology. For it is in the interplay of control and change that the destiny of societies is determined. The science of sociology has arisen out of the persistent effort of men to understand the conditions of their collective life. From the earliest times, philosophers and historians speculated upon the nature of society, the causes of its order, and the sources of its change. These reflections were often brilliant and profound, but they lacked the systematic observation and disciplined method of science. Sociology is distinguished from this earlier speculation by its attempt to collect facts, to analyze them objectively, and to derive generalizations that can be tested and verified. It is still a young science, tentative in its conclusions, limited in its resources, but it has already made clear that the study of society is not beyond the reach of scientific inquiry. The conviction grows stronger that the same spirit of inquiry, which has unveiled the secrets of nature, can illuminate also the complexities of human association. The task of sociology is to discover the forms and processes of social life. These forms include the institutions that persist through time, the family, the church, the state, the economy, and education. These processes include communication, cooperation, competition, conflict, accommodation, and assimilation. Sociology seeks to describe these forms and processes, to classify them, and to trace their development. Its object is not only to know what society is but how it works, how it maintains itself, and how it changes. In this sense, sociology is both a descriptive and an explanatory science, concerned not only with the facts of association, but with the laws by which association is governed. The method of sociology is empirical, relying upon observation, comparison, and analysis. It draws its data from history, statistics, ethnography, and direct observation of communities. It employs the concepts of psychology, economics, and political science, but it seeks to integrate them into a broader understanding of social life. The sociologist studies the records of human behavior, laws, customs, institutions, and traditions. But he also studies the immediate interactions of individuals, the responses they give to one another in daily life. From these data, he constructs generalizations that reveal the recurrent patterns of association. The method is not simple, for human behavior is complex and variable, but the aim is clear: to reduce the apparent chaos of social phenomena to order and intelligibility. The significance of sociology lies in the fact that society is the environment in which all human life takes place. To understand the individual without reference to society is as impossible as to understand the fish without reference to water. Man is born into a group, lives in groups, and is shaped by groups. His language, his beliefs, his values, and his very sense of self are derived from the society in which he participates. To study society, then, is to study the conditions of human existence itself. Sociology is not an abstract discipline remote from life. It is the science of life as lived in association with others. Its findings touch every aspect of conduct, every institution, every policy. The future of sociology depends upon its ability to integrate its findings into a coherent body of knowledge. At present, its theories are fragmentary, its generalizations tentative. But the accumulation of studies, the refinement of methods, and the increasing cooperation of investigators promise steady progress. As data multiply and comparisons extend, clearer laws of association will emerge. Already we can see outlines of such laws, that competition and conflict are universal processes, that consensus is necessary for cooperation, that institutions arise from repeated adjustments to recurring problems, that change is constant and cumulative. These may not be final truths, but they indicate the direction of discovery. The practical implications of sociology are evident. By revealing the conditions under which order is maintained, sociology aids in the design of policies that promote stability. By disclosing the causes of disorganization, it guides efforts to prevent crime, vice, and unrest. By analyzing the processes of assimilation, it informs programs of education and integration. By studying the effects of industrialization, urbanization, and migration, it contributes to the understanding of modern problems. Sociology does not dictate policies, but it provides knowledge upon which sound policies can be based. It offers not solutions but insight, not dogmas but facts, not programs but understanding. The outlook for sociology is bound up with the outlook for society itself. We live in a world of rapid change, of expanding populations, of increasing interdependence among nations. Old institutions are challenged, new movements arise, and the pace of life quickens. In such a world, the need for understanding is urgent. Ignorance of the forces that shape society leads to fear, prejudice, and conflict. Knowledge of these forces opens the possibility of intelligent adjustment, rational reform, and peaceful cooperation. Sociology is thus not merely an academic pursuit, but a vital necessity for the future of civilization. The legacy of sociology lies also in its contribution to the intellectual outlook of mankind. It teaches that society is not a fixed order decreed by fate or divine will, but a human product, subject to laws and capable of change. It shows that institutions are not eternal but historical, that customs are not immutable but adaptive, that authority is not absolute but contingent upon consent. This perspective liberates the mind from fatalism and superstition. It encourages a critical attitude toward tradition and a rational approach to problems. It instills humility by showing the complexity of social life and the limits of individual power. It fosters tolerance by revealing the relativity of customs and beliefs. It inspires hope by demonstrating the capacity of men to create new forms of association. The science of sociology is not complete. It is still in the stage of collecting materials, defining concepts, and refining methods. Much remains to be done before it can claim the certainty of the natural sciences. But its beginnings are significant, and its promise is great. Each study, each investigation, each comparison adds to the growing body of knowledge. The progress may seem slow, but it is cumulative. The outlines of a science are visible, and the path ahead is clear. With patience, persistence, and cooperation, sociology will develop into a comprehensive science of society. The closing word must be one of perspective. Human life is short, but society endures. Individuals are born and die, but the group persists. Each generation inherits the institutions, traditions, and culture of the past, modifies them in its own way, and passes them on to the future. Sociology reminds us that we are links in this chain, participants in a process that transcends us. It gives us a sense of the continuity of human life, of the connections that bind us to our ancestors and to our descendants. It shows us that our actions are not isolated, but part of a larger pattern, contributing to the shaping of society. In this sense, sociology provides not only knowledge but orientation, not only analysis but meaning. The index of sociology is society itself. Every phenomenon of human association is within its scope, from the family to the state, from the simplest custom to the most complex institution, from the briefest encounter to the most enduring tradition. All are materials for its study. The closing remarks of this science must therefore emphasize the breadth of its field and the unity of its object. Whatever else man studies, he studies as a member of society. Whatever else he achieves in association with others. Sociology is the science that takes this association as its object, that seeks to understand it, and that aspires to reveal its laws. The legacy we leave for those who follow is not a completed system, but an invitation to inquiry. The task is too great for any one generation, too complex for any single mind. It is the collective effort of many, across time, that will build the science of sociology. Our contribution is to gather the materials, to clarify the concepts, to set forth the problems, and to suggest the methods. The work of others will continue where we leave off, correcting our errors, extending our insights, and bringing the science closer to maturity. In this sense, the science of sociology is itself a social product, the result of cooperation, communication, and cumulative effort. Thus, we conclude with the recognition that sociology is both a science and a perspective, both a body of knowledge and a way of seeing. It does not provide final answers but a framework for understanding. It does not eliminate problems but illuminates them. It does not predict the future with certainty but reveals the forces that shape it. Its value lies not in offering comfort but in promoting clarity, not in confirming prejudices but in challenging them, not in prescribing dogmas but in fostering inquiry. It is, in short, the science of society, still young but growing, still imperfect but indispensable.